St James's Gate Brewery is the home of Guinness. It covers 64 acres of Dublin City. The brewery has operated from many different buildings in the surrounding area for its production and offices, including a power plant. It also owned entire streets provided as accommodation for its employees.
Guinness, they did a lot of things for the city. I mean, they restored Patrick's Cathedral. They built where Patrick's Park is now, that was known as Lousy Acre, is the worst sentiments in Dublin. So they built a park.
There was a warren of houses, including some illegal abattoirs. Eddie Cameron from Dublin Corporation was instrumental also in closing down these abattoirs. But also the Guinness family were keen also to landscape the park. So there were mainly hucksters who ran businesses from their hovels, as it were, there. So the Ivy Trust built the Ivy Market at the top of Francis Street to house these people, so they could continue selling clothes and other stuff in the Ivy Market, while they knocked down the entire area that is now the Patrick's Park and landscaped it, with the result that when you come out the door of the Beano, you have this lovely park and you have this lovely view of the cathedral, which you didn't have before with dirty old tenement houses and backyards. So it benefited everybody.
Built at the beginning of the 20th century. It was built because the traders used to trade in Patrick Street. And when dignitaries were going to Patrick's Cathedral, it didn't look well. And Guinness decided to get them off the street and to improve their conditions. They built the Ivy Market. So you had clothes and a wash house. The second-hand clothes were always washed. And you washed them in the wash house. So you always bought something that was clean. And most people bought something. It was before its time, recycling.
There was a part for all the clothes.
On ground level.
Yes. And then wasn't there was a part for the butchers.
Yes.
And the vegetables, and a great butcher. There used to go with my mother, and we used to buy our meat there and the vegetables and the fish. It would be like a shopping mall of today, you know.
With the Ivy Market, you know, I think they'd founded that, hadn't they? The Ivy, yes, of course they did. You could shop there, and the different characters that sold in it, like, and times were bad, so you would shop in it, you know, you'd get stuff there.
The Ivy House belonged to Guinness. Stephen's Green was presented to Dublin by Guinness. The flats in Kevin Street, Guinness. The Ivy Trust, Patrick Street, Nicholas Street, all Guinness.
The funny thing about the Ivy Trust is it was built by Guinnesses, but they had no influence over who got the dwellings, who got them. There was a committee dealt with that. It wasn't true to say that it got special treatment if your father worked in Guinness's. We all thought that was true, but I've found out later that wasn't true. There was a fairer system of giving out the dwellings.
But then we had also the Ivy Baths that you could go and learn how to swim. And Guinness's, that was Guinness's as well.
I learned to swim in those baths, yeah. I suppose it would have been the early 1960s.
I would think I was only once in the baths, that's all.
But you could use the baths in the Ivy swimming pool. They usually did it on a Friday. Pay and get your soap and towel. You had the night shelter. So everyone was catered for, young and old. The night shelter were for people who were just destitute, hadn't got a place to go to, and you went in there, the hostel, the Ivy Hostel.